So, all right. So most of you know me. I think almost everybody here knows me. Rebecca Mercuri. So, yeah. Thank you. So basically, I've been doing forensics for 12 years. Prior to that, I did a 2-year postdoc at Harvard, and prior to that, I was in education, teaching, working backwards at Bryn Mawr College and Mercer County Community College, Drexel University. So I was teaching at various locations, and I had always thought that I was getting a PhD because I wanted to be a university professor. But then I got into forensics, and it's actually the longest particular job that I've ever held. I never have really held any job for more than 5 years, but I was really doing the forensics for 12 years. And I'm not doing the forensics. I just basically sort of took a sabbatical from it I got this 1-year position. It's a visiting assistant professorship at Drew University, and what I was told was that they were going to build a cybersecurity minor under the computer science major there at Drew University. And that's what I was hired specifically for cybersecurity. The job position, the posting said that they wanted somebody in cybersecurity. But then I was hired, and then one of the faculty members went on sabbatical in the computer science department. The other one got pregnant. And so the 4-member computer science department, starting in spring, is really only 2 people. So I'm now half of the computer science department. But I will be teaching a few cybersecurity courses, basically networking and security, and a digital forensics course. But basically, because we were down to only 2 faculty members, I wound up having to teach more fundamental computer programming courses. So this semester, I have been teaching 2 sections of Python. Drew usually offers just 3 or possibly 4 Python sections per year. And they're just a small liberal arts college up in North Jersey and Madison. And then they also teach numerous sections of Java. The Python is a precursor to the Java. If you pass the AP exam with, I think, a 4 or 5, you can get out of the Python and possibly also out of the Java. But basically, that's sort of the path. Very few people actually place out of any of these courses, because the problem, I sort of wanted to bring this up because of what he was saying about taking all these AP courses. A lot of the colleges and universities won't accept them, and they want to train people a certain way, and if they don't have those prerequisite courses, then they're going to be floundering about not understanding the methodology that's being used. So we have a particular way of teaching Python, which was using the popular book Think Python, which is supposed to teach you how to think like a computer scientist. And so in preparation for teaching this, I actually audited the Python course that was being taught in the summer. And I found that I really hated it because the way they're teaching Python and Think Python, and in a lot of these courses that you're seeing online and stuff like that, they have the philosophy of teaching functional programming using a language that is sort of really, I don't really think of it as that functional, but basically they start out with functions, and they start out with, calling functions and doing for loops before they've ever taught a while and before they've ever taught an if statement. So in my opinion, it's like ass backwards, and I just couldn't really deal with it. So I was basically reorganizing the course to put it back in the way that I thought made logical sense. So we wound up doing lists at the very end of the course and functions just prior to the very end of the course. But by that point, the people actually could understand it, because I could say, look, lists are just like those range things that you did, when you were doing that and you're counting in your for loops, you start with 0. And so I was trying to make those parallels. So that's the way I sort of organized it. But also the predecessor, who's the one who's pregnant now, so she taught taught Python in much more of she's a database person, so she's like big data person. So it was all like strings and doing that cool stuff that you were doing, but it's like Python and strings and, and it's like, oh my God, this is like a first semester class. These people are going to be like bored out of their skulls. So now some of them were into it, but really I was like going sort of crazy because I think, I want to do stuff. I want to do cool stuff. So I'm searching all over the web, all over the internet to try to find something that I could teach in my format of the methodology, and also something that would be exciting because I'm really into the arts, as you well know, and computer graphics and sound and all that sort of stuff. And I happened upon this thing called ProGrameArcadeGames.com. And this guy is a little older than he looks in the picture. It says here, I graduated from Simpson College and managed to use programming as a career path to get a six-figure salary before I was 30. So I certainly don't make that now that I'm a professor, but I can't think of anything I'd rather do than spend all my time teaching and learning. So he created this course, this online course, and it's really got everything. It's like so cool. So let me just give you the Program Arcade Games. Where's the home page? And show you what's going on here. So this is basically the course. So here is the course. So and things that come up here are stuff that other schools donated. So they sent in pictures, and he just puts them up, and they all just sort of rotate and everything. It's really cool. So basically, here's all the different chapters. And so you just basically go through, and each chapter basically takes you through a topic. I'll show you Introduction to Graphics because that's what I want to show you about today. So here's Introduction to Graphics, and so he gives you all the things that you need to know, sort of teaching the math a bit, how to do the axes, that, you know, the origin is in the upper left-hand corner as opposed to being sort of on the right, and, you know, just giving you sort of a history sort of thing. And then he gives you all this sample code. So here's this code, and just like you were doing, you just grab it and you just put it in your Python, you know, whatever you're using as your user interface for Python. And just to get back to what you were saying, Python does have many flavors, and many of them are incompatible with each other. Many of the libraries are incompatible with each other. So unfortunately, we did lose some class time in trying to get students up to speed with their laptops. Now, one of the features of, I'm calling it a feature of Drew University, is that a long time ago, sort of like Drexel University, decided that every student should just own their own computer. They thought of that as a great way to get everybody into computing. And they did this actually in the 80s, sort of like Drexel University with the Macintoshes. But what it has evolved into is everybody has a different computer, including students who came from a foreign country whose keyboard is in some weird character scheme that doesn't have a backslash in it. So it's a little bit insane. And then we've got the Macintoshes, and then you've got the people with the Surface that doesn't even have a USB port. And so it's really turned into a complete nightmare, and we do not actually have a functional lab. We don't have any laboratory devoted to the computer science department. So where I have come from back in the day when I was teaching, we at least had a uniform lab, and we didn't have to waste class time trying to get people to load up their machines with these different environments. So I find that to be a real disadvantage. But again, if you're stuck in that type of learning environment, you may have to do that. I would strongly recommend having a uniform space that everybody can go to. But anyway, all this great code is there. So once we get them up and running, we're able to start writing this code. And what I found was that since I was getting them up and running on this Python, so we're doing all those problems, the text-based and all that stuff in the first third of the class. And then in the second third of the class, we got into the graphics. So what I found was it was almost impossible to get them to write any program in Python longer than like 10 lines long. But all of a sudden, when I put them into graphics, they were like obsessed with it. And they started writing 2 and 3 and 5 pages long programs because they just wanted to get their object to do some weird thing or look really strange. So my goal was to really get them programming as opposed to, you know, learning some abstract, weird concepts about databases. So I think it was extremely successful, and they really did take off on it. I'm going to show you some of their examples. But the great thing about this book is that at the end of each chapter, there's a multiple choice quiz, there's a short answer worksheet. You can use those as reviews, and you do those as examples. And then for homework, I would give them these labs. So in the creative picture assignment, which I'm going to show you, then they each had to do certain things, and then it gives you like certain caveats. You have to do this, 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 and this. And so I can just use as a checklist when I'm grading. So it makes it very easy. And people can submit their code, or they can submit the little pictures, and these were just examples that he gave. So now I want to show you what my students wound up doing. They just really love this, I have to say, once they really got into it. They just really got into it. So here are my fall 2017 PyGame pictures. It's not everybody, but these are some of the best ones. Some people were really into outer space. For some reason, even though they were doing this in October, they were all obsessed about Christmas. So I'm not quite sure. So there are a lot of winter scenes and a few beach scenes. So it was a very strange thing. I didn't tell them what to draw. This guy is very obsessed with video gaming. That was interesting. A lot of creepy stuff, but this was an October thing, so you also see some Halloween things. This gal really got very obsessed with drawing this little guy, this piggy thing, character, which is, you know, a popular cartoon thing. And she just was so thrilled with herself that she wrote it. Actually, she asked a friend, what should I draw? And they said, oh, you should draw the little piggy. So she got hung up. And then some of the people were into abstracts. Oh, and Drew University refers to itself as the forest. There's all these little, you know, things about the forest and, you know, stuff like that. So you see this, some of the forest themes are from that as well. And Yuli, who can barely speak English, although she's getting a little bit better at it now that the semester's running along. She did a tremendous job with this, and she was so thrilled that she was able to get that little curve up at the top of her castle with the little rabbit logo on there. So that was this. Here's some more stuff. Again, I'm not quite sure what was in some of these people's minds when they were drawing this, but basically that was, you know, here you go. But anyway, that was this part of the thing. Now this comes back again and you'll see it in a few minutes. So then we start moving along and we're learning about other things like recursion. Recursion is a favorite topic of mine. So once we finally got into functions, we could get into recursion. Of course, recursion, you have to get into fractals. So here are the students doing PyGame fractals. Oh, by the way, so everything that his course is, you have to add to the Python library, you have to add PyGame. It's very difficult to add PyGame in these different environments. We're using PyCharm, which is a certain flavor of just an IDE, so, you know, just an interface, and that's what we're using. So you have to use 3.4 PyCharm to use 3.4 PyGame, and so it is a little bit complex. This was a new machine, it's about a month old, and it took me a while to get back to my environment so I could actually use it for this talk and stuff like that. So anyway, so I'm not saying that there aren't hurdles in doing this, but again, if you have a uniform environment, it's much easier because you can just load it and duplicate on all the machines. But anyway, so they're in PyCharm writing their programs, but then they're importing the PyGame library, and it's got all these great stuff, and they're just writing the most amazing things. And so here's their fractals. These were all fractal programs using recursion. They had to actually use recursion. I mean, who in like week 10 of programming is doing amazing recursion programming? But they're doing it. They were really doing cool stuff. Even this scribbly one was actually recursive. And this one, I think, was really, they're all cool. They're all really, really cool. And I'm just, you know, I'm very astounded at what they were able to do with this stuff in just a relatively short period of time. So now I just want to show you. So then this is actually PyCharm. This is what the interface looks like. And so basically you're in PyCharm and you have to import PyGame and any other libraries that you want to use, like math. And so, because I was giving this talk today, what's actually happening is that due next Wednesday is their animations. So they were to take the pictures that they drew before, and then they were supposed to modify them to have it do an animation. Or they could do a whole new picture if they felt like it. Or they could use, you know, anything else. But they were basically had to do, just like with the picture, they had to do certain things. So they had to do certain things with the animation. So they were very excited about this, and some of them like really went obsessed with it and decided to do the assignment that was due on Wednesday. A whole bunch of them did it and showed it to me yesterday. So again, what students do the assignment a week before it's due? They do it the night before it's due, if even that, or maybe the day after it's due. So to me, that's like a sign of student interest and student engagement in this. So every time I was giving them some special thing to do with Python or with PyGame, they just, they just went to town on it. So last night I wrote to them, the ones who, because I had checked them off as having finished that assignment, and I'm like, oh wow, maybe I can choose some animations. So I just wrote to the ones who had done their animations for me, and I said, I really need your PyGame file, so I want your Python file, and then I'm going to show it at this talk tonight. They were all excited, so they started sending them to me, and they were just so thrilled, and they wanted to know about the talk and about Computer Science Education Week. So it was a great way to get them all involved. So here, I'm going to show you some of their animations. They're so cool. So here's one, guys. This is his. Let's see, I can just hit run. And what PyGame does, it pops up its own little window. You can make it whatever size you want. Oops, I guess I'll just do this. There you go. This is, come on, come up, come on. There you go. Okay, so here's his. It's just adorable. It's just adorable. So you can just run these again and again. They're very cool. So here, I'll just run it again. Whee! Yeah, it pops up another window. Oops, sorry. Wait, let's start him again. So yeah, these are just great. And again, I'll just sort of skim through the code so you can just see it. Oops. Come on, guy. Go.
That's how the sun gets up there?
What?
Is that how the sun gets up there?
Yeah, it's how the sun gets up there. You throw it up there. Yeah, exactly. In his world, that is his world. So again, this is just his code. So you have to declare colors and everything, and then he's changing the sun. And look, I mean, how many, who gets students to write while loops, for loops, if statement, without telling them they have to do it? He wrote these ifs. Maybe you could have used if else, but that's okay. Who cares? I mean, there he used it elif, and he's drawing all these different circles. I mean, this is a pretty sophisticated program. So, and some of them were even longer than that. So let me show you some of the others. These are all just really cool. So, oops, here we go. All right, so let me show this one. Oh, Jelly. Who's Jelly? That's actually her nickname. All right, so let's see. I'll hit run. Run. Let's go on, Jelly. And they were obsessed with moving the sun around. It's like really bizarre. But what's cool is they took their previous pictures and then they made it do cool stuff. I mean, it was just so weird. So, all right, this one I think I can leave up there. So let's just keep running. Let's see how many of them I can get up there before it crashes. Okay, so now we've got Kira. Took me the whole semester to pronounce her name Kira as opposed to Kyra. So this is great. These students are really, they're just fun, I just enjoy their enthusiasm and what they're doing. Now just watch this carefully. This is very interesting. It's just adorable. I think they're in Alaska. So this is really great. I mean, it's so cool. I wasn't telling them what to do. They just did it, It was just so great. Okay, let's see what else I have. What? Okay, here, now that's exposing itself again. That's really great. And again, you can see her code, and this is long. This program is actually pretty sophisticated. A lot of these are really long. She's doing different shapes. She's did an eye and range. I mean, it's, this is pretty amazing work that they were doing without being forced to do it. It was just do a cool thing. And then they use stuff they knew. Okay, so here's Natalie. So, they're all really good. I'm sorry, Natalie. so this one is in that original slide of the original one. So she just, did a few little additions. They all like to do the snow because that actually was sort of an easy thing that you could do to make a nice effect that a lot of them hit onto it at the beginning. So who else did we have?
What grade do you think could use this program?
Who could use the PyCharm with the PyGame?
No, the actual that program arcade game.
Oh, the program arcade games? I think that you could certainly use it in high school. You definitely could use it in high school. I don't know about middle school. It gets sort of intense, and there's 20 chapters total, and based on the topics that I need to cover in Python, for the course, I really only needed to do the first 10 chapters, but then I added the one on recursion, and so basically I covered half of his thing. So he really gets into some more intense stuff with more object-oriented things and, you know, some more of the advanced Python topics. So you could do this as another semester. You could
I
keep
tried
going.
using for middle school kids PyGame.
You did?
I tried it, yeah, it was really hard.
That's what I think. I
It's
think
really
middle
hard.
school, they don't have this level of sophistication. I think the senior high school, you know, 10th, 11th, 12th.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
you
use
could
this
do it.
curriculum, but I was something else.
Okay, I would suggest this curriculum because I think it's really quite good, you know, and I found the students liked it because he's sort of humorous, he gets into a lot of detail, and it does give them, I think this is the only one we didn't see,
Pencil code.
gets into a lot of, and this is also one of my favorites. This is the trampoline of weirdness. I mean, it's like so awesome. These are just so awesome. So all of these are really great.
Yeah.
For middle school. Did you use it for
code.
middle school?
No, I was saying pencil code.
Pencil code.
It's kind of cool because you can either do block-based or JavaScript, and you can go back and forth, and you can get animations.
And you can get
put it on
animations.
the web, and it's just a little easier than
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not Python.
No.
No, it's not Python. It's its own sort of thing.
Or CoffeeScript. They like the
Yeah.
default might be CoffeeScript, but you can change it
Is
to
it
that.
scratch? Like scratch?
The block part is Scratch.
It's Scratch.
Similar. Yeah.
So this is just regular Python code with using the libraries of PyGame. So a lot of the calls are, you know, here she's doing some random stuff, but that's, you know, from the random and math libraries. But anything that's a PyGame draw is a PyGame command. But they're very easy. He introduces them in a sort of gradual way, and you know. But to get students to write a ton of code without forcing them to really do it, I think that was the glory of doing this. And they got into lists. They just did it on their own because they wanted to create their pictures. So I think it was.
Is that a trampoline?
Yes, it's
Yes.
a bouncing trampoline of weirdness. Yeah, it's really dope. And again, I gave them no direction for this. They could do whatever they wanted. So his example was the bouncing rectangle, that one that you see going up and down. And so he gave them the code for that in his sample thing. And then some of them used the bouncing thing. So I required them to do the bouncing rectangle, and there was one other a real short program that he had. So I just had them cut and paste it in, and then they could modify it. But then after that, then they were supposed to make their own pictures. So, you know, people were just using their own. Once they got into it, they realized they could do all sorts of things to animate it. You can make it run faster or slower. It's all basically doing screen refreshes. So it's, you know, so you can regulate the rate of the screen refreshes. And then, of course, depending on the computer that you have and how many apps you have open, because sometimes some of the students were saying it's really slow. I said, well, shut down like about 80% of your apps. Let's start running faster. So I just think it was really successful, and I just was so appreciative that they were so excited about sending their code, and I can't wait to see all the rest of them. It's really going to be exciting. So thanks very much for listening. Any other questions? You can contact me at Mercuri at ACM.org. Or just search for Rebecca Mercuri online. Or I'm on the ACM website. You can find me there for our chapter. So
Okay.
thanks. I think this was a great panel session, even